Alright guys, just got back from the old fabric store and getting supplies for the seat covers, and I'll give you a shot real quick. Here's what we spent just on fabric and pieces and parts. This isn't anything assembled, so if you want to do this yourself, it's not necessarily cheap, but I was looking at about what $550 to $600 to have somebody recover my seats, and I probably spent on top of that another, let's just say, 20 bucks for spray paint and various things, which I think if somebody else would have done my seats, they would not have sandblasted and spray painted the frames. So we have a big piece of foam here. This is 2-inch foam right there, and it's 84 inches by 24, and that was, come on buddy, I should have read through this before. There it is, $25 for that. Some Landau foam, which this is actually for another project, so you could subtract that off of the seats, but it's for the car for sure. It was $3. We have our sesame tweed, right there. That was $11.95 a yard, and I got a yard and a half, so $18 basically. I got some fabric out of their closeout bin. I got 2 pieces that are pretty decent size. I think 1 piece will do each seat. I'm just going to use it to cover up the springs. That was $3 a pop, so we had $6 there. I got white piping already made. I measured the seats, and in order to get a piece of fabric long enough to make a continuous loop around the outside, I would have had to gotten like 3 or 4 yards and cut the edge off of it to do this. And plus this is not an easy thing to sew, so I just bought it pre-made. It was $1.50 a yard. I bought 17 yards for a total of $25.50. What else did we get? Some hog rings. I got a pound of hog rings. I think those were $2.50. Some hog ring pliers for I think 25 bucks. Let's see. Yeah, $23. What else am I missing here? Oh, I got some adhesive spray. This again is for another project. That stuff's 10 bucks, and I think that's sort of the end of the list there. So that's how much this stuff costs if you want to do it yourself. Oh yeah, I also got a piece of, where did it go? I got a little roll, must still be out in my truck. I got a little roll of black vinyl, and that again is for another project. So there we go. That's the quick lowdown on the supplies. Let's take a look at what we've done so far this morning. And whew, it's hot. Here we go. I took white primer, just a Rust-Oleum, and covered up all the rust. And I don't expect all of it to stick. I just want it to kind of seal everything in. Then you can see I got my bone white color. I don't know if you can see it, it's so bright out here. My bone white color is on all of the pieces that are going to show. So I got all of these done this morning, painted my grass, and so there you have it. We got those ready to go. So we may make this happen this weekend. This will be fun. The next piece that we have to do, I hope you guys can see, is to disassemble the old seat covers here and make our patterns. And that'll be interesting. That'll be fun. So we'll do that together. I want to do just a little bit of analysis in case anybody else has a Volkswagen and they're watching this. So pardon me if this gets boring, but when I took my seat apart, it had a few different parts and pieces, and I had never seen anyone take these apart before, so some of it was sort of confusing for sure. This is the headrest. It sits on there with 2 roll pins, so I had to take a punch and punch it out, and then it was a bear getting this off of the seat frame. And this material here is just tucked in, so just a screwdriver and some patience, and I was able to pull all that out, get the headrest here like this, and this is just urethane poured around some piece of metal, so you don't want to take this foam off because you can't really replace it. In the seat backs there was a piece of masonite like this. That was a good one. That was a bad one, so I'll probably have to take another chair apart and get the masonite out of it. Hopefully I'll have another one in good shape. almost everything was covered in this really thin foam, and I'm not exactly sure why. There's really nothing to it. Maybe there was something to it back in the day, but it just kind of seems like a useless layer. The seat bottoms were really interesting. On the sides, let's see, there were no hog rings on them at all. So on the sides, they have like a little channel, and this piece of fabric has like some cardboard sewn on it to give it some thickness, and it's jammed in that channel, and then the channel is actually hammered to the side. So that's the sides of the chair. And then the front of the chair, there's spikes, and we'll see them either later in this video or in the next video. But the spikes just go through the fabric, and then there's a little wire that runs through there that ties to the seat frame and ties everything down. So that was really kind of interesting. And then they had a little bit of plastic over the top of the backs of the chairs. So again, not really certain why, but you know, whatever. It was just a little plastic there. I think this was, no, I don't know. I've got more of it somewhere, but anyway, on the seat backs, oh yeah, I forgot to point this other piece out. They also have a tie-down spot right there. So the bottom of the seat should, in the middle there somewhere, should tie down so that it gets a little pucker there on that seam, and it just kind of keeps everything in place, I guess. But all the strings were broken on these things. I mean, these things were in horrible shape. The back has the same type of a deal. So let's see. This is sort of inside out, so we'll pull it all the way inside out so you can see. Give me just a sec, guys. Sorry about that. That's cat-like reflexes right there. So there's our holes for the head restraint. I guess it's not a headrest, it's a head restraint. And then that right there is where it ties in to the seat frame again. There's just a little piece of metal that goes through there, and like 3 or 4 strings that hold it in just to give it that little pucker right there. And that's kind of the difference between a seat that really looks good and one that doesn't. You know, when they have that little extra detail right in the middle of them, they look pretty sharp. So I'm going to dismantle this whole thing with my razor blade that I have in my hands and use this for a pattern. So we're going to make something very, very similar to this for our seats. I was going to do some French stitching and some other things, and just thinking about it, we're gonna use this as a pattern. We're not going to go exactly off of it, but it's going to be real close. I'm not going to put a ton of detail into these seats, because the more I got into that, the more I realized it just didn't look vintage when I did that. It looked like somebody's sewing project, and that's not what I want. I want it to look like it's meant to be there. So there we go. I'll show you as we get some progress. I hope you guys can see these lines here. I drew lines. I'm going to try and pull it this way. You can see on the near side to the camera how that line kind of tapers in. I just followed one stitch and made a straight line, and then I take all my measurements from that straight line. So what we need to do is cut off that funny piece, and that's going to keep us straight on our pattern on the chair so that it doesn't look crooked. There's our 2 seat back middle panels and our 2 seat bottom middle panels. It's really hard to show on camera, but I've put some pleats into a test piece here. Just testing it out. I bought some, this is a long time ago, this is a backed foam. And the reason you buy a backed foam is so that you can sew through it and that the threads will have something to catch. Because if you just sew straight through foam, these pleats won't really show up very well. but I started doubting whether or not this was the right stuff, so I put some backing, and I did half of my pleats without and half with the backing, and I can't tell a discernible difference between the two. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that this foam with the backing on it is what I want, so that's what we're gonna use. Right. Yep. Then you take the rest to the scrapper, I guess. Right. That's exactly right. Oh shit, now that'll send you into a tailspin. Right. I've got my two backs here, my blanks for the two backs, so this is the center section. My two seats here, and these all have their little pockets sewn on. And now I've got two blanks for the sides of the back here and the sides of the seat, so this is blanks for one seat. So left side, right side, right side, back, bottom. I'm sorry you missed this, guys. I'll show a little bit of it later. My camera battery died right as I was getting ready to add the piping, but I've now got piping on both of my seat backs and both of my seat bottoms. So there you go. And one thing I screwed up on is I forgot to allow for some take up in these things, and so everything kind of shrunk a little bit, but I think I can make it up in another piece. It'll be just fine. So it'll be okay. We'll just have to stretch real hard. So, you know, what I should have done was I should have left an inch here and an inch here and then cut them to size, which is what I did on these side panels. Just left them, you know, real long, and I'll cut them to whatever size they need to be, and then we'll stitch it all together.
How about that?
That's pretty sweet. Jesus, what'd you drink, bro?
Dr. Pepper.
What?
Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper?
It does that to me.
Whatever.
And it makes your poop to the screw you.
All I can do is tell you. We've now got our fronts cut and our bottoms cut for both chairs. So we're going to move on to putting the skirt onto the bottoms. Got my seat bottom. I've made a mark at the center. I got my skirt, and you can see I had to make a pattern again. So we got doubling over, we got a hem there, we got a wire that goes in here, and that's my center mark. here's my piping cut to length. So I'm going to line up the center and the center. I'm actually going to start sewing this way, then I'm going to probably flip it over and sew the other way around. I want to get that center in the center, and if I start from there and start to get a little slack, it just won't line up. I've got my wire here for the front edge, so we're going to stitch that in. I made some marks on the front where the crease should be, so let's see if we can make this happen. It's going to be a trick.
They now have fluffed marshmallow vodka.
No, I don't want any of that.
Huh.
Here is the first seat cover. Got the skirt on it. The piping sort of goes back and down and then just sort of wraps under the seat, I guess. I can't remember that detail. But this back folds over and then goes over the spikes and stuff, so I'll probably just cut that flush or something. I don't know. I'll figure that out. But there it is.
Don't let your meatloaf.